It's the Go Gopher Podcast with Mike Grimm, episode number 185. I am Mike Grimm, voice of the Golden Gophers, and welcome back to the podcast. It's game week for the University of Minnesota football team, and as has been tradition, we have Gopher Athletic Director Mark Coyle join us on opening week to talk about the football season as well as all the other fall sports seasons, some of which have already gotten underway. We want to thank Mark Coyle, and we know you'll enjoy hearing from him. Our Go Gopher podcast is presented by alumni-owned Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're a business founder planning to exit your business, start by contacting Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. Sunbelt serves more businesses up to $5 million in revenue than anyone, and True North M&A serves companies with revenues up to $150 million. Get a confidential, no-cost, no-obligation business valuation started today. Hey, make the most of your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com today. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union's also a big sponsor of the Go Gopher podcast. Life math is complicated, and Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union makes it easier with local financial experts available to help in person or virtually. Go to affinityplus.org/GoGophers for more info. The Go Gopher podcast is also presented by onX Maps. Find out how to download the onX Fish app for free by listening to the Go Gopher podcast. We're podcasting episode 185 from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We invite you to subscribe to the Go Gopher podcast. It's free to subscribe, and it's free to listen. You can go back and listen to previous podcasts as well. Last episode, for example, I chatted with Randy Johnson from the Minnesota Star Tribune and Ryan Burns from Gopher Illustrated, and we previewed the upcoming football season. Still a lot of timely takes in that episode. We released it just this past Friday, so go back and have a listen. This week, we're talking Golden Gopher athletics with the man who oversees everything. Athletic Director Mark Coyle will join me next.
I'm Clay Geary, walk-on turned scholarship wide receiver for Gopher football.
And I'm Ben Utek, U of M alumni, Super Bowl champion, and Tony Dungy Uncommon Award winner.
We understand championship culture, which is why we're part of the True North family of companies.
True North invests in only elite teams, like the champion team at Sunbelt Business Advisors, Minnesota's largest seller of companies. To learn more about True North and our diverse family of independently owned companies, visit TrueNorthEquityPartners.com.
Keep the good times rolling without the regrets. Giggly THC beverages are your go-to for bold flavor and smooth vibes. Zero alcohol, no bad decisions. Just THC-infused cocktails, seltzers, and teas packed with natural ingredients and performance-boosting superfoods like ashwagandha and ginseng. Find Giggly at over 500 locations like Total Wine, MGM, and Cub Foods, or shop online at giggly.com. That's GIGLI.com. Ready to upgrade your drink game? Use the code GIGLYNORTH, as in Giggly Talk North. Giggly North, GIGLI North, for 50% off your first order. Giggly, sip smarter, feel better.
It's episode 185, and this has kind of become one of our annual traditions now. 3 straight years that on the opening week of football season here for the Golden Gophers, the athletic director, Mark Coyle, joins us. And he usually joins us 2 or 3 times a year, and this is one of the fun ones because there's nothing better, right, than 0-0, at least from a football standpoint, 0-0 on the record, everyone being delusional, as PJ Fleck says, right? I mean, this is kind of a fun time.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. You know, year-round is all summer. You see not only our football student athletes, but our volleyball student athletes, our soccer student athletes, and both basketball programs are here working all summer with the hockey. I mean, you see all of our student athletes around here. So it's really exciting to get to the start of the school year. We actually have move-in week this week with students on campus. So I know our student athletes are excited to welcome the new students to campus and get a little bit more energy back on campus. But obviously it's an exciting week and have a big game against Buffalo this week in football to get our football season started.
Yeah, just driving to campus to record the podcast today, there's U-Hauls all over the place, and there was a near accident just ahead of me. A U-Haul was trying to cut across lanes. The good news is University's now got a couple more lanes open, so that's good as we get close to the football season. And they're nice and smooth. I mean, it looks good.
Boss, I'm holding my breath. We need all that construction done. You know, they've done a lot of work around campus, and we appreciate everybody's patience as we worked our way through that. But we're told everything should be buttoned up and done by Thursday when people come in here to tailgate and get the football season kicked off the right way.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we had Wiz on, Mike Wiersbicki, a couple weeks ago, and I said, look, you can't go to a Big Ten football game and not experience some traffic. It's just that's going to be a deal. deal with it. And if it happens that it's a little worse than normal for a week or two, fine. But let's all just be patient and understand the situation. The road right now, when you drive down, it's as smooth as a pool table. You know, I mean, it looks great. So it comes at a price.
Yeah, well, I'm very grateful that we do have traffic issues, because that means people are coming to support our student athletes. So we'll take that problem, and of course, you and I travel all over the Big Ten with our teams, and you see it everywhere you go. There's the same type of traffic, and I can't tell you, just as a side note, the amount of support our fans have given our football program. You know, if you think about when I got here 9 years ago, I'm starting my 10th year here at Minnesota, and what the tailgating lots look like now, the vibe around the program on game day, it's really a really cool atmosphere. So again, we're just so grateful for our fans for being patient, for coming to the games, seeing that traffic, getting here and being loud, because there's no doubt it has a huge impact on PJ and the team.
Yeah, and of course, a gold out this Thursday. And we're going to talk cross country and soccer and volleyball coming up in the podcast later on, but we do want to talk football here. First, you mentioned year 10, time flies, right? And I think I saw this tweeted out a week or two ago, maybe a month ago, that you and PJ Fleck now are the longest tenured combo of football coach and athletic director. So he's entering year 9, you're entering year 10. And in today's landscape, that's a long tenure as a AD or a head coach at the same school. So one, how proud of you are you of that fact? And two, what does that say about the landscape of college sports now that 10 years is about the limit, it seems?
Yeah, it's really odd. If you think about that time, when I got here, I think I was a third or fourth AD over maybe a 5-year period,
right.
6-year period, and there was a lot of transition at the AD level here at Minnesota. Obviously, there was a lot of transition with the football program and the changes we went through on that side of it. So I think there's no doubt, and if you go back to PJ's very first press conference, he talked about sustainability. How can he be here long term? And it's amazing how many fans come up to me and say, does he have the Notre Dame clause in his contract, like Lou Holtz, right? And again, he's starting year 9 here. He and Heather love it here. I can tell you, my wife Chris and I love being at Minnesota. This is home for us. I was here from 2001 to 2005, left for 11 years, and had the chance to come back and be the athletic director. So I do think it gives us an advantage because, PJ and I work very well with each other. We have a lot of trust with each other. My goal is to do everything we can to support not only PJ, but all of our head coaches and all of our student athletes. And I think it's a testimony to PJ and what he's built here. It's not easy to be a head football coach at 9 years in the Big Ten Conference. How competitive this conference is. He's guided our programs to unbelievable highs. We've had some struggles like every program, but if you take a step back and look at the wins we've had, the way he does it, the academic success, the impact on our community, I'm hopeful all people agree that PJ is the best person to lead this program.
Do you think, I don't want to be controversial right off the bat, do you think people outside Minnesota appreciate what PJ's done here more than maybe even our own fan base in Minnesota?
Mike, that's a great question, and you and I could probably spend the entire podcast,
right.
Just talking about that. I think our fans, PJ talks about what this place means to he and Heather, how it's home. They just built a beautiful brand new home, that they want to be here. And I think, when you travel nationally, I can tell you when I'm with different athletic directors across the country, they all pay attention to what PJ Fleck is doing. Mm-hmm. They see the success he's had here. We've been very, very consistent. We talk all the time about we need to be consistent and we need to be relevant. And what we mean by relevant is getting to postseason bowl games, winning those bowl games. It gives your program a chance to continue to grow and develop. And you see how each year when we go to these bowl games, it gives us that extra practice. You see new kids step up in the bowl game. You call those games. You see new kids step up, and it prepares you for the next year and those type of things. And so, I do think, there's a reason why schools call and try to hire PJ Fleck. And I think the public, it's almost every year his name pops up. I promise you in a few weeks when we get into the college football season, his name is going to pop up at other destinations. And the reason why is because he does it the right way. I mean, he leads, I tell people he's old-fashioned values packaged high def. At the end of the day, it's about integrity, honesty, doing things the right way, competing at a high level, but he can also operate in this new landscape of college athletics, and that makes him very attractive to others. But again, I think our fans have a great respect and appreciation for him, but I can promise you across the country, people know who he is, they know how he does it, and he does get a lot of looks every year. You see that every time we go on the road.
He's got this, you mentioned, he's got this unique blend of old school and new school and some uniqueness that nobody has. I mean, there's something to it that, one, it draws attention. I give him credit because it does at times put himself out there, and some people aren't going to like the style, and then they're going to take a few shots where it'd be much easier just to stay back and hold back. He doesn't. I think that's good. But the reason I ask about the national part of it too is because you see what national writers say about him sometimes. And two, like every other year, whenever the coaches association gets together, and it must be various times, I'll get a text from somebody at another school, or over the course of time, you just get connections and film guys here or there, and it's like, hey, your guy was the talk of the coaches association with his speech this week. Everybody needed to get in, jam packed, So PJ does resonate with people.
He does, and he's so optimistic all the time.
Right.
And people ask, "Oh, is he really like that?" And the answer is yes. I mean, he is so optimistic. And, I go through, when we've gone through really difficult times in our program that have nothing to do with football, he's the first person calling me. He's the first person sending me a text. You got this. Let's do this. How can I help? What can we do to help, the department, those type of things. And so, again, he gets the big picture. And again, I think, we are very, very fortunate that he's our head football coach. It's hard to believe. I remember the first time I met him, Mike, before I sat down, when we had a chance to interview him in Chicago, before my backside hit the chair, he said, if you ever see a pirate suit on my expense report, don't freak out. I had no idea what the hell that meant, but after being with him for 9 years, I understand it. Now. And for the first 45 minutes, I'm trying to figure out what the heck does he mean by a pirate suit? Yeah. But again, he just brings a uniqueness to our program. And I think the biggest surprise or misunderstanding around Coach Fleck is I think people would be shocked at how involved he is with all of our other programs. He pays attention to them, whether it's women's basketball winning the WBIT last year, our women's cross country program, finishing in the top 20 in the NCAAs, Keegan Cook in the volleyball program. I mean, PJ pays attention to all this.
He just did a deal with the band.
Yes.
Right, which is awesome.
Yes, he gets excited. He has truly embraced Minnesota and is such a great advocate, not only for football, but for all of our programs.
Yeah, I agree. And it all resonates with this cultural sustainability piece now. Little sidebar question. The days of like Coach K or Bobby Bowden doing 30 or 40 years at a school, can a guy do that now, or a woman? Guy just generally.
Yeah. Mike, college athletics has changed so much, and you look at Pat Summitt and what she did at Tennessee and all the success she had there. Coach K at Duke. You see these coaches who just go for a long, long time. I had a chance. I was watching a program the other day, and they're talking about these coaches. Coach Bowden. I worked.
You were there,
I went to
with
Florida
him,
State and in grad school, and had a chance to meet him and be around that program. And he was legendary. He was there forever. Those type of things. Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech. I hope those things can still exist. But again, I think the pressure in today's world to compete at a high level, with roster management, with NIL, with cap share, all those type of things. I think it takes a special person to be able to make it that long. I think PJ's got the energy to do it. If there's anybody that can do it, I do believe in PJ. But I have a lot of respect for Coach Ferentz at Iowa.
He's now the dean.
Yes.
27 years starting this week.
I hope our fans understand. I want to beat Iowa every time we play him, but I respect him in the way he's done it at Iowa for such a long time. That's not easy to do. So I think Mike, to answer your question, I think it's harder and harder for coaches to have that long-term sustainability at a program for the 20, 30 plus years. But again, you look at Coach Summitt at Tennessee and what she did with their women's basketball program. You look at Coach K at Duke and some of these other coaches. If it happens, boy, it becomes very, very successful, and they have a lot of long-term traditional success.
The one thing, too, to get to 40 years or 50, and some, Joe Paterno, I don't know, what is he, 60 years or whatever it was, I don't remember now, but you got to start young as a head coach. So PJ, if he does he at least has the head start that he was a young head coach. So if he's going to do 40, he doesn't have to be 85 by the time he's done with the 40,
Yeah, I can't speak for PJ. I'm not sure he'll get to 40. We'll see. Right. But again, as I said earlier, and I keep repeating myself, we are just really grateful that he's here and just really grateful for the way he represents our program.
You've talked often about your competitive nature. You were a high school football state champion. You were a college football player. Football kind of feeds the beast, as you know. You've talked about that. So do you get extra juices flowing this week, and what will Thursday be like for you?
Yeah, well, you talk about the competitive side of it. We had our chance. Our soccer program started their season last weekend. We had BYU and St. Thomas at home, and then I was at our game yesterday against Northern Illinois. Had a nice win against Northern Illinois yesterday, and I just get excited to see the kids compete. And again, you're here every day, and a lot of our fans don't have a chance to see how hard these student athletes work when they're out of season. I mean, they are going nonstop all the time with nutrition, strength and conditioning, mental health, health and performance. Of course, they got to do their academics, and I always like to brag about this. We have a grade point average of almost 3.5 for our student athletes, so we're doing it the right way there. Graduation rate above 95%. So again, a lot of really cool things. So, I get excited to watch all of our teams compete. I had a chance to talk to our cross-country programs, our men's and women's team, and Coach Hopkins last week. They just left for fall camp, and they compete this upcoming weekend. So it's fun to watch and compete, but football gets so much attention, and it's such a big driver, not only at Minnesota, but across the country. I mean, conference realignment is around football. All the TV contracts are around football. So there's no doubt there's a lot of pressure on football to compete at a high level. So yes, your heart rate does pick up a little bit because you realize the significance of it. And again, my goal is to do everything I can to help our program, as I talked about, be relevant. How can we be relevant? Have those special wins, give our university a chance to compete at a high level on the national landscape. And again, football's a big driver in that.
How do you keep that balance, too? Because as we mentioned, it's the one that feeds the beast. That's where most of the revenue comes in. You mentioned the attention, be relevant. And then this day and age, and we'll talk maybe more a little bit later in the podcast about, name, image, and likeness, revenue share, and all that. But now, I'm sure every coach is knocking at your door. I need this, I need that. So how do you walk that fine line of keeping everybody happy? And maybe sometimes you can.
Yeah, well, I've tried to be very, very honest with our coaches, and Mike, you've been around me a long time. I try to be very open and honest with our coaches, and I can tell you, we have had conversations for months now. Once we started to learn more about the House settlement and what that would mean for our programs in terms of revenue sharing, how we would revenue share, what programs we'd revenue share with. All of our coaches clearly understand that football, men's basketball, men's hockey, those programs generate revenue at Minnesota. We're very fortunate that we have 3 programs that generate revenue. A lot of programs don't have 3 programs. They might have, 2, football, maybe men's basketball will generate some revenue, but other programs won't. So our coaches clearly understand what programs generate the revenue. They clearly understand, that we want every program to compete at a high level. What I love about Minnesota is that we have a very broad-based program. In the Directors Cup, we finish in the top 12%, 13% every year, which is a big deal to us. And I always remind our coaches, when they knock on my door and they're asking for things, it's my job, it's our staff's job to give them every chance to compete at a high level. And when you watch Aaron Chastain take our soccer program to the Sweet 16 last year in North Carolina, and what that meant, they were ranked 24th to start the year this year. I mean, those are really cool. And to that program, that means everything to them. Just like for the football program, a win on Thursday night would mean everything to them, right? I mean, that's what I love about this is they have laser focus on their sports, and it's my job to kind of keep that laser focus on each sport, but also help them to understand the big picture. And if we can be competitive in those sports that can generate the most revenue for a program, it's going to help all 22 programs across the board.
Let me talk real quickly about Affinity Plus. They're our sponsor of the Go Gopher podcast. They've proudly been serving Minnesota since 1930. It's your local community credit union. As a current Gopher student, or if you're a proud Gopher alum, that makes you eligible to join this financial that wants to build a meaningful banking relationship and put you first. You can meet with local employees at any of their branches statewide. There's one here near campus on University in Minneapolis. To learn more and find other ways to connect, visit affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. That's affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA. People-centered banking, perfect for Gophers. As we continue a little bit down that road, and by the way, those fine folks at Affinity Plus have done a nice job in creating ambassadorships for select student athletes, which every little bit helps, right? And they've been, there's been some major pieces that they've helped out with, I think, over the course of time.
You and I need to figure out how we can get on a train on campus, like exactly. Mara and Isaac. They both had the train wraps, those type of things. It's really cool.
Pictures on billboards.
Yep. Affinity Plus is great sponsor of our program, and really grateful for all they do for us.
No doubt. As we look, it's an interesting time, right? Because on one hand, there's never probably in the history of the University of Minnesota Athletic Department been more money coming in, right? But at the same time, there may not have been a time in recent history where the budget has been tighter because of certain demands with revenue share and all of that. So it's got to be at times you're probably banging your head against the wall figuring out, how can I have all this money but not have it? How do you figure that all out?
Yeah, well, I always like to say first, every program in America is going through this financial strain right now. I mean, if you're talking about Ohio State and Michigan, their budgets are more than $1 million in ours, and we're supposed to compete against them, right? And we have to compete against them. And so every program, so we're not alone. That's the great thing, is we're not alone.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, President Cunningham has been so supportive. Greg Goldman, our CFO on campus, Executive Vice President, have been incredibly supportive, and they understand how important it is to be competitive in the Big Ten. An athletic program can be such a marketing tool for your university. And again, we'll be on national TV Thursday night with football. That's a great exposure to the University of Minnesota. We'll have 10,000 students in the student section. People want to be a part of that, right? And that just helps your program in so many ways. But there's no doubt as we enter this revenue share side of college athletics, we have $20.5 million. And what we decided to do, Mike, we're sharing money with our football program, with our men's and women's basketball program, with volleyball, with men's hockey, and then any new scholarships you add count towards that $20.5 million. So we've added scholarships to volleyball, women's hockey, soccer, gymnastics, and softball. So we've added so we're revenue sharing with about 10 of our programs in terms of money that's going back into the program to the student athletes. And I think that's a good thing. That's part of the House settlement, but at the same time, you got to have a balanced budget. And again, I'm just grateful for President Cunningham, her support. There's no doubt we need to be creative in trying to generate new revenue streams. Farm Aid coming up in the middle of September. We had the Beyonce concert a year ago. We have the World Hockey Juniors coming into our facilities. Those are all ways we can create new revenue streams to help us navigate this new system of revenue distribution back to our student athletes.
Name, image, and likeness. I think from the very start, you've always talked about wanting to go through things cautiously, aggressive when you can, look for guardrails. And it seems like maybe we're starting to see some formulation of some guardrails. Or would you say, is that the word you'd use? Or how would you say it now where it stands?
Guardrails with a lot of fog. So we still need some more clarity. Yeah, we need the fog lights, and we still need more clarity. But I hope our fans understand, we are so grateful for the people who have stepped up and have been a part of Dingytown Athletes. They have run it the right way. That's very important to me. That's very important to our institution. As you know, I talk about doing it the right way matters in Minnesota. But I can tell you, Mike, any student athlete at the University of Minnesota that has had an NIL deal through Dingytown Athletes has been paid. I would be willing to bet we're probably one of a handful of collectives that can say that across the country.
Is that right? No
yes,
kidding.
I have heard more stories from student athletes who weren't paid at different institutions.
Where they were promised money
X number.
to do whatever.
Yep, they were promised X number of dollars, and it never happened, and those type of things. And again, every student athlete that had a deal with Dingytown Athletes was paid. We honored every agreement. I take great pride in that, and I do think we are starting to get more clarity. We do need the fog lights on still a little bit. We still need to get a little bit more clarity from the Collegiate Sports Commission, CSC, and provide guidance on NIL. But I feel like Minnesota, we've done it the right way for the past few years. I feel like that's going to benefit us as we move forward into this new landscape where there are more guardrails around NIL. It's not going to be pay for play. And quite honestly, people are doing that across the country. Right. You hear about quarterbacks getting $10 million. I can assure you that never happened at Minnesota. Did our student athletes have NIL deals? Yes, they did, but they were legitimate, true NIL deals. And again, we've honored every one of those agreements. And I think that says a lot about the way we do things. Says a lot about Dingytown Athletes, and says a lot about our fan base and how we want to represent them the right way.
There's now, if I have it right, there's a clearinghouse where any student athlete that has a deal needs to clear it, and then that clearinghouse is going to determine whether there's fair market value. In other words, you can't, I think part of the guardrail, supposedly, but I'm using these bunny rabbit quotes here, is some quarterback can't say, I'm getting $1 million to show up for sure, but not even go empty a garbage can or whatever it is. It has to be. So how is that part gone so far? Because we're pretty much in the infancy stage of it.
Yeah, so this all started July 1st. So any NIL deal that a student athlete signed with a third party, i.e. Dingytown Athletes, anything over $600, that student athlete has to disclose that to an organization called NIL Go. NIL Go will review that, and they'll look at the range of compensation. And they will come back and they will say, yes, this passes, or no, this doesn't pass. So there is more clarity. And I do think these large large numbers that we saw and heard about, who knows what's actually true. The media, with all due respect, sometimes we blow it up a little bit. It's like that fishing story. I caught a 10-inch fish, but and then it became a 20-inch, 30, whatever it may be. But
show me the pictures.
Yes, exactly. Show me the pictures. But I do think we'll have clarity. And again, Mike, I think it gets lost. President Cunningham, her leadership at the institution, her support, Commissioner Batiti at the Big Ten. We've been able to do really good things in the Big Ten because of Commissioner Batiti. But again, President Cunningham allows us to compete at the highest level, allows us to be active with the Big Ten. And again, I think that positions Minnesota very well as we move forward in this new landscape. I think being a part of the Big Ten is really important for Minnesota. But again, NIL, we've done it the right way, and I think we will see a minimal adjustment here at Minnesota. I think other programs are really going to struggle to make this transition.
Two national stories relating to college football. The SEC has now said it's going to go to 9 games, and then they've put a requirement, which I like, that they're going to have to also, as part of their non-conference schedule, play a team from a Power 4 conference. I think the Big Ten kind of was pushing the SEC along, right? Part of this college football negotiation, why it didn't get to 16 teams and all this. We don't got to go, deep down that rabbit hole, so to speak. But there are 9 games, and do you think that now paves the way that we'll see a 16-team format soon?
Well, Mike, Greg Sankey, Commissioner Sankey at the SEC, I have a lot of respect for him. I've known Greg. As you know, I spent 7 years at the University of Kentucky, and when I was kind of working my way up at Kentucky, Greg was working his way up through the SEC office to become the commissioner. And, he's a bright person. Commissioner Batiti, I just talked about him, a wonderful commissioner, a bright person. I think those two are working closely with Commissioner Yormark at the Big 12, with Commissioner Phillips at the ACC. Of course, Commissioner Phillips used to be AD, Jim Phillips at Northwestern, so he's got a lot of Big Ten ties. And what I like about the SEC going to 9 games is I think it just started, the Big Ten obviously plays 9. Now you get the SEC to 9. The ACC's at 8. Can we somehow get them up, and get the big, just to make sure we're all playing the 9 games? Because those 4 commissioners, they need to have lots of conversations about the college football playoff system. And I, for one, I like the ideals that keep coming forward. You see these ideals, 12, 14, 16, 24, 26, whatever it may be. I think it's good that we look at different ideals because, again, I think, the access for all programs to have a chance to compete for a national championship only strengthens the regular season. And so, if you're asking Mark Coyle what I would like, further expansion. I want to do what's best for college football. And I want to make sure we do everything we can selfishly to give Minnesota a chance to compete at the highest level. And so, again, I'll let those 4 commissioners kind of to hammer out, what the details will be. But I am optimistic and thankful that the 4 are talking. I'm optimistic and thankful that, they are looking at a deeper playoff system because I think the more that get in, the better for college football and the student-athlete experience.
Gopher football has Mississippi State. I think that starts next year, right? Next year, a home and home, and then Alabama down the road. With the SEC now requiring that their schools go to at least one Power 4 non-conference. Remember there was discussion a year or two ago about some sort of a basketball-style Big Ten ACC challenge, SEC Big Ten football. Do you think that could potentially be back on the table, or at least maybe even, not organized, but more SEC Big Ten intersectional games?
I think the more that the A4 can do together to compete with each other, the better. Again, that's just Mark Coyle's. I'm not speaking for the Big Ten, but I think the more we can compete against each other, that's why we've gone out and we've got the Mississippi State series, we got the Alabama series, we got the Cal series this
Coming
year,
up,
right?
We'll be
there a few weeks. We'll be out
yeah.
there. Yep. And so again, another great thing about PJ, he will play anybody. I mean, Pete, you're again. Yeah. Tell me who to play, boss. Let's go play him. I mean, that's what he's actually a AD dream because, again, he'll go play these people. But I think the more we can play each other, and Mike, if you take a step back, in the SEC, they play, a lot of them already play Power 4. Like Kentucky plays Louisville every year, right? Yep. South Carolina plays Clemson every year. You have those built-in games right now with their Power 4, so it's going to be hard for some of those teams to add another Power 4 program because they've got those built-in rivalries. Georgia Tech play each other, those type of games. Again, I do think the more we can cross over and play each other, the better for all those conferences.
All right, so I'll ask you this. I don't know how you'll answer it. I saw the idea floated last week. Somebody was trying to report that the Big Ten could be investigating not equal distribution. I mean, that's been the hallmark of Big Ten athletics, is that you pool the resources and everybody gets a fair piece of the pie. At first, it was kind of shoved off as this is some guy that probably doesn't know what he's talking about. Then some fairly credible college reporters, a few of them, started saying, wouldn't surprise me. That would be a total change in the Big Ten philosophy.
It would be a different change of course for sure. And I can tell you, as college athletics continues to change and evolve, what I love about the Big Ten is I feel like you have when I got here it was 14, now it's 18 institutions, and I think you have 18 institutions that are focused on what's best for the Big Ten in college athletics, and I really appreciate that. And I can tell you that when the 18 athletic directors, we have meetings every week with Commissioner Battiti. It's 18 schools trying to work together, trying to do what's best for again, college athletics and the student athlete experience, because so much has changed. We're now sharing revenue up to $20.5 million with student. Just players, think about that for a second, right? And so when you ask about uneven revenue distribution, this is going to happen, that going to happen. There's so much information out there, but what I can tell you, Mike, is that again, I feel very comfortable at Minnesota. I talk all the time, and I know President Cunningham feels this way. Being in the Big Ten is a blessing, not a burden, and we need to always remember that, and we need to always take advantage of our not only our athletic partnerships with our Big Ten, but all the academic alliances that take place across the Big Ten. There's so much intertwined. So again, we're very fortunate to be a part of the Big Ten. And again, when I talk about being relevant, you got to be relevant in the Big Ten to continue to compete at the highest level and be a part of whatever that revenue may look like in the future. But you're 100% correct. The Big Ten has always been focused on working together, do what's best for the collective, not for the individual. And I don't see that changing as we move forward.
And there is some uneven distribution now because some of the newcomers are catching up and all of that. But I'm saying just the core charter members have always divided it up evenly, and we shall see how that goes. One more quick commercial, and then I want to talk volleyball opens tonight. We want to hit that, and then we'll let you get on your way. We want to talk about the summer winding down. Yeah, football season's here. That means there's still time to get out on the water and on the boat. Let the OnX Fish app help you find the next best bite. The Fish app offers the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your success. Use the Fish app to find new places to fish. You can sort by lake, species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potentials. OnX Fish also shows you hotspots, lake-by-lake regulations, private and public land ownership info, and more. You can download OnX Fish on the App Store or go to onxmaps.com/fish to get more information about the app that is changing the game on the water, and you can get a free 7-day trial. Volleyball tonight in Sioux Falls as we record. We're midday here on Monday, so some people may be listening to this tomorrow or what have you. We'll know the outcome, but it's a good starting match at the Pentagon. We love the Pentagon, great place, and it's 9th-ranked Texas A&M and Minnesota ranked 11th with high hopes.
Yeah, it's Coach Keegan. Keegan Cook is going into year 3 here at Minnesota, and just really grateful. He walked into a program that competes at the national level, competes at a high level. And if you remember last year, we were in Milwaukee and opened up with 2 great teams, opened up with Texas, and actually got Texas, who's the defending national champion, out there. And we get Texas A&M tonight in Sioux Falls. And again, I know Keegan and that program have high expectations. We compete in the best conference in the Big Ten, in the country with the Big Ten Conference. And there's changes going on. Penn State won the national championship last year. They're actually over in Sioux Falls too playing. I'm going blank on who they're playing. Kansas, they've got Kansas before our match against Texas A&M. Nebraska has a new head coach with Coach Cook, or not Coach Cook.
It is Cook.
That's right. John Cook. Coach Cook retired at Nebraska, so they got Danny's there's new coach who played at there and had Louisville in the Final Four. It felt like every year. So there's a lot of changes going on in college volleyball, but there's no doubt Keegan's got our team ready and should be an exciting match tonight.
Yeah, and he has the red shirts from last year who were hyped. They're now ready to go, and then he's got a recruiting class that's among, I think, the top 6 in the country. So the young, the old, the transfers all mixing. It could be a fun year.
Yeah, you go back from Coach Hebert to Coach McCutcheon to Keegan. We've had great coaches here for a long time. Again, you talk about culture sustainability. Just think about the 3 names I just mentioned and the volleyball success they've had and what they've done. And again, I know Keegan's excited to get the year started, and they've been working so hard, and it'll be a good start for us.
Said you watched soccer beat Northern Illinois 4-0 yesterday. They're 2-1, Sweet 16 last year. The Robbies a great place to go watch soccer, and it's an exciting time for them.
Phenomenal place to go. And again, Coach Chastain, Aaron does such a wonderful job. She had so much success at DePaul. Before DePaul, Santa Clara and all these great programs across the country. Is a former Gopher student athlete here at Minnesota and understands what it takes to compete at this level. We have a young team this year. When I was watching the game, I had to pull out that program because we had so many freshmen, sophomore who were getting valuable minutes and playing, and got off to a 2-0 start. I think we're up 2-0 at half, and then scored 2 more and won 4-0 yesterday against Northern Illinois. A little chilly out there yesterday. I was caught off guard by that. I needed to pull over.
I was at the fair with the family last night, and I was like, man, I wore long sleeves, and I'm
felt
glad
early.
I did.
We had that. We moved our youngest son on campus out at Arizona State last week. It's 115, and I come back for the soccer match. But yeah, Aaron's got has got our program going in the right direction, and again, should be a lot of excitement. Again, a younger team will compete well in the Big Ten Conference, and again, coming off a Sweet 16 appearance, one of our best performances ever in the NCAA tournament. So a lot of expectations for Aaron.
And then cross country, it won't be too long. We'll be seeing all these runners for the GRIAC, which is one of the great events in the country, and high hopes for both the men and women.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I had a chance. I was with Coach Hopkins last week and had a chance to visit with the team. They start their fall camp, and fall camp is hard. Yeah. Imagine being fall camp for a cross country kid. Like,
no thanks.
Think about how many you and I are not. We're not going to go.
Well, you're a runner at least.
Yeah. But I see those kids sometimes running past me on River Road, and they have smoke on their heels, and I can tell that I'm 56 now. I've slowed down quite a bit, but I had a chance to spend some time with them, and Mike, I think. People don't realize what Sarah Hopkins does here. I mean, the success she's had leading our program, a former walk-on under Coach Wilson when Gary Wilson led our program, but she's a head coach of our women's program. She's a head coach of our men's cross-country program. She does a wonderful job. Our women were in the top 20 last year. We have high expectations this year. She's a big part of our track program with Coach Bingle, and, you see the success our track program had. It feels like years ago, but it was actually 3 months ago in Eugene at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championship. But Sarah does a wonderful job with that program. We actually have the Oz Memorial this weekend here in the Twin Cities, and the GRIAC will be coming up later on in September, which is a national meet. And again, Coach Hop will have those kids ready, and they'll compete at a high level.
Yeah, she is a go-getter. Like, she just wills her way to have good teams, right? Like, she's not scared to demand stuff. She's not scared to say you got to do this and do that, and pretty soon she's got a pretty good club.
I mean this with the utmost respect. She is blue collar as you get.
Yeah.
I mean, you show up to work every day with your lunch pail, right? You roll up your sleeves and you work hard, and she epitomizes that. It's something I have a great deal of respect for her, and what I love about Hop is she will tell you exactly where you stand. Like when you mentioned earlier, when coaches knock on my door and ask me questions, Hop is not.
She'll let you know.
I know exactly where Coach Hop can stand and what she's looking for and what she's trying to do. But again, I have a lot of respect for her, and she truly is a leader amongst all of our coaches in this department. She when she talks, when we have our head coaches meetings, we have our assistant coaches meetings, when she talks, people listen. She always asks really good questions, kind of is forward thinking, which I really appreciate. And there's a reason why she has the success she has with both our cross country programs.
I know we're running late. You have to go talk to the basketball team, it sounds like. But I do want to ask you quickly. You hired Nico back in the spring. Man, when I'm out and about and people know who I am, the first thing they ask is, how's basketball going to be? I'm excited about this. I mean, it's been pretty well received, obviously.
Yeah, I think Nico would be the first to tell you we're undefeated. He's undefeated. He hasn't coached a game yet. But again, I think, Mike, if you look at what he did at Colorado State, you look what he did at Furman, you look at what he did his 1 year at Drake, and what I think is unique about Nico, people, he was from here. That's, to be honest with you, Mike, that wasn't on my radar screen. We had to get this right. We had to find the right basketball coach. And again, the success he's had at each one of the stops, how they've all brought him back. Colorado, he went back to each spot. I think that says a lot about Nico. And I can tell you, when I have a chance to talk to other coaches, not only in the Big Ten, but across the country, from my time on the basketball committee, they all speak very highly of Nico. There's no doubt our fan base is really excited about Nico. I think we're going to be a much better program this year. I think he brought in some really talented young men to come in and compete for us, which will be exciting. I have a chance. I meet with all the teams when they come back for the semester just to introduce myself and spend time with them. So I'll be with our men's basketball program here a little bit later today. And you didn't ask, but like on the women's basketball side, I cannot wait for that to get started.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're going to be good.
Yeah, they're going to be really good. The WBIT championship, I think we'll be ranked in the top 20 to start the year, which is awesome for Dawn as she starts year 3. Recruiting's growing incredibly well. Mara Braun's going to be back. Taylor Woodson's going to be back. I mean, that team is going to be a really good team. So I encourage people, if you don't have your women's basketball tickets, make sure you get your women's and your men's basketball tickets, because it should be an exciting year in the barn.
Yeah, very affordable. Are you on the committee still, or is your days done now with that?
No, I'm going into year 5. It's a 5-year appointment, so I'm going into year 5. I'm the old man in the room, but actually me and then Greg Byrne, who's the athletic director at Alabama, and then Keith Gill. Keith Gill is going to be the chair. Keith is the commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference and just a really good person. Keith will be the chair, and then Greg and I will be on that committee. So we're the 3 we're the three oldies in the room, if you will.
The old heads.
We welcome in some new committee members, and so I'll go through my last year on the men's basketball committee, and it's been a great experience. But I'll be excited to get back to the Big Ten basketball tournament. I've not been able to go the
you
last
can't go
four.
Of the rules.
Yeah,
those rules seem weird. We can talk about that at another time. In today's day and age, they just seem weird to me with how accessible info is now. Like, why do we have to sequester you guys? If you're in Indy and you couldn't go watch your own team 4 miles down the road or whatever.
And you know me, I would love to watch our team. But again, I appreciate the NCAA, Danny Gavitt, Joanne Scott, the way they run that tournament, that they do such a wonderful job. And, quite honestly, the NCAA gets so beat up by so many people. And I feel bad. They're all wonderful people. But I can tell you what I've learned in these 4 years now, starting my 5th year on that basketball committee, is how much the NCAA focuses on doing things the right way in terms of the student-athlete experience. Right. If it's the rowing championship, the lacrosse championship, the softball championship, or the men's or women's basketball championship, they put so much time and effort in there. I have a lot of respect for the way they do it and the way they want to make sure they give those student athletes a first-class experience when they compete for those championships.
You've talked often about wanting to watch your men's basketball team make the tournament. So how eager are you potentially in year 5 to say, Mr. Coyle, you have to leave the room now. We're going to talk about the Gophers.
We may have a kegger in my garage if I hear they ask you to leave the room when they talk about your team, and then they hit a doorbell to bring you back in. Yeah. And Jamie Pollard, who's the AD at Iowa State, he was on it for 2 or 3 years before Iowa State got in the tournament. And Jamie said when he heard that doorbell ring, it was like music to his ears. And we'll be very excited when they ring that doorbell and I can come back in the room, because that means they're talking about the Gophers.
Yeah, that would be outstanding. Well, hey, we appreciate it. I know it's a busy time, and you've got basketball guys to go see. Tell Nico I said hello.
We'll do that.
And great to have you on as always. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, we appreciate you, and thank you. You don't get enough credit for everything you do for our program, the way you represent us, and you truly are the voice of the Gophers. So I hope you know how much we appreciate you and what you do for our program and the exposure you bring, not only to football, but to all of our programs. It means a lot to all of us.
Kind of you to say. We'll see you on Thursday.
Go Gophers.
All right, it's episode 185. He is Mark Coyle.
My thanks to Athletic Director Mark Coyle for giving us time again today here on the Go Gopher Podcast. A very busy time of year for him, so we appreciate the time he gave us. Episode 185 is presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors and True North Mergers and Acquisitions. If you're buying or selling a business, visit sunbeltminnesota.com or tnma.com. We're also partnered with Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union, a locally member-owned full-service financial invested in you. You can learn more at affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. That's affinityplus.org/Go Gophers. OnX Fish also sponsors our show. Happy fishing from OnX Maps. Again, I'd invite you to listen to past podcasts, and please be sure to subscribe to the Go Gopher Podcast right now. It's free to subscribe and free to listen. Please share the link to the podcast with others so they can subscribe and listen as well. And if you enjoyed our podcast, please let us know with some positive feedback on your social media channels. We'll talk again next week.